ideas and such. If you take out your big sheets of paper, there's so at least the first part where I stepped in it is not recorded. Okay. If you take out your big sheets of paper, there's two processes on that. I tried to save trees, so I only printed on both sides. There's basically two separate processes dealing with two different things. If you are looking at things that faculty want to initiate, things that faculty want to start or get going, it is basically the faculty governance, faculty input and communication. They call that IFI. Regardless of what it's called, it is a very good defined process. If you look at the various steps that takes place, first, the faculty member submits an idea to the dean or PD. The idea of submitting to the dean or PD is not a filter. That's not the idea of that. So don't think that some of these steps are filters. If you submit something to me, my job is to sit with you to possibly. Oh, I thought you were stopping me. Okay, you're counting. The idea is that when you submit it to your dean or PD is that you sit down, talk about it, and so when the submission goes, there's some refinements because the dean may know something that they're looking for that should be in your proposal that you should address, whether it be a program outcome, a course outcome, a student outcome, or something like that. So you put it in the format that is more readily accepted and understood going forward. You had a question? Okay. Well, I see movement. I respond to movement, especially when hands move. So when you submit it to the dean, that's part of the process of that submission and review and sign off. It's not an approval. It is not, again, a filter. Then it is submits the form and submits it via electronic submission. It goes to a person in systems office who logs it in, and we're going to keep track of those so that if something's coming from different locations, different campuses and stuff like that, and a theme starts popping up, that means that thing has to move to the forefront. So that's why it's logged, and it's also logged so that when it's received, they know they have to eventually send back a response. So that's important. So then that services team reviews these at their monthly meeting, and then they have a variety of outcomes that may take place. They may require immediate action, that it'll be put in the queue to go through our policy 42. It may be some other type of more information is needed and stuff like that, or they may even decide the suggestion is not actionable at this point in time. Again, not everything's going to be acted on. But the process now is to collect more ideas. And then there's the feedback is provided, sent back to you. The bigger one, and I'm not going to go through as much detail, one, because it takes a lot of time, we want to stay on task, is when something has been initiated, like Blended, big system initiation project that's been initiated as far as that goes. Just a couple comments on that. We just finished our first session of Blended. The outcomes look pretty fantastic. I know it's not perfect, but that's part of what this process is about. That we have a systematic way of going through the review where you have an idea, you sent the idea through, it goes through a very defined review process so that, again, it's log in, it is so that we know that it's active, but at the bottom line, it is very, very systematic. It is designed to collect information from all over the college, not just this market or region, and then document that so we can now act on that. Again, looking for trends, looking to identify things that may have to be acted upon immediately, things that may have to go to a group for more consideration. There's some of the things that we want changed and we suggest to be changed are quite substantial changes. Out in the field, sometimes it looks easy, But when you go and dig into some of the programs and Blackboard and the writing of curriculum and stuff like that, that's uploaded in the virtual world and stuff like that, that does not automatically or doesn't always change easily. So, but they look at that and they have to now start filling in, bringing in those individuals that have some stake in these, the managers or the individuals that wrote the various programs and things in the process. So, and again, feedback eventually comes back to the faculty member. I know some of the criticisms of some of the calls and stuff like that we've had is that you provided feedback in those calls and you didn't know what the outcome was. You didn't hear about that. This is part of the process to alleviate that. So you get it in, so I don't know, but that's reality. I know it's been a frustration. I've been on some of those calls. I've heard the suggestions. I made a couple myself. I have no idea what happened to those. Now we know. Because eventually if we follow the format, once they get the forms out to us, you fill out a form, you submit that form, and it goes through the process. And then you get a response back. I know it looks like a lot, but once we get it going and you get some experience with it, it'll be a great, in my view, it's a great thing. Whenever we can say and have impact and also know what happened to what we says, one, improves our commitment, improves satisfaction, and we can see the fruits of our labor in our suggestions. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Tagai, who's going to take you through an activity. Oh, wait. Handing the all yours.
So, good morning. So just to kind of add to Jim's point in terms of I think why this is an important process. As you know, number one, I think the talent that we have in the college with our faculty is just incredible, right? We hire faculty based up on their credential, based up on their experience in the field, and and then academic, right? So we do a lot of training on teaching teachers how to teach, but the value that we have with our faculty across the college is the talent that they bring within their respective discipline. So we really want to make sure that we capture that when we are making decisions, when it's improvement of program or creating new program. So to try to capture, and because we're so spread out across the state, we want to make sure that we have a tight process so we could really get the voices of the faculty. This is really critical because your voices matter, because you are the one in front of our students, you are also in the community, you are also in the industry. So what we say and what we put with respect to curriculum or new program or any other initiative that we have in the college, it is so important that we have the voices of the faculty, because you also represent truly the classroom experience in our student. So this process, as Jim said, this is really, really important process. It does look complicated and just in terms of how it's written out, but the idea here is to hold all of us accountable, from faculty giving us the information or the recommendation to what happens with the deans and the PD, and then what happens when it gets to the college level, and then what process do we follow at college in terms of making sure that we give you feedback. So as you know, we do have a section on feedback this morning, right? That is really critical. You also need feedback when you do recommendation and give us some suggestion. We really want to make sure that we provide feedback to you, right? Sometimes it's going to work in the sort of the perspective that we think. Sometimes it may not. But if we get an explanation as to why we're not going to have this new program, why we can't have a program in Western New York, for example, as something that comes often, well, why don't we have this program? Or why don't we have this program marketed a lot, right? And that, if you have an explanation as to the rationality as to why we don't have those particular initiative, then I think we'll be in a better position. So again, I cannot emphasize enough the voice, the important voice of our faculty, and then this process, as you know, holds all of us accountable. So one of the things that we want is this. Part of it, we have a system set up where I know most of you heard of the institution ILC. And that's where the deans are involved. So I represent the New York State deans. Ohio, there's a dean representative in that group as well. So it's a committee that sits to really talk about the responsibility that we have within our state. And our job is really to take information from the college level to the campuses, to the markets and to the campuses, but also to bring information back to the committee, and then in turn, the committee takes it back to the college. As well as when there's decisions are being made or initiative, those decisions also, or those information come to the committee, and the committee's responsibility is to take it back to the market and to the campuses and talk to the deans. And the idea is that the deans are having conversation with their, with the other deans, so that that information is flowing part of that. So one of the things that we did, just to kind of give you an idea, when this first kind of started, we had the opportunity to go through it and give our feedback as to how we thought faculty may perceive it, how we thought we can manage it as deans and PDs, so that there was some feedback provided so that we could have it here. But also, I'll let Chris talk about the role of faculty, the faculty development that we have as a committee. We'll talk about the faculty.
So as you guys may or may not know, I'm a member of the Systems FTC committee, and this is a committee that meets once every semester. There's a back to think about it. We tend to have 2 meetings face-to-face. We have 1 meeting that takes place via conference call. A lot of the agendas that you guys get for each one of the beginning of term in-services have some genesis in the Systems FTC. And the training that you guys are going to experience today, which is capping off 2017, the training that you guys will hear about that's going to represent our themes for 2018 were based upon what FTC gave through Charity and through Bill when we met about a month and a half ago. Now, when we go, traditionally how we've been able to do this is by a face-to-face conversation with all of you guys. But it's very informal. What I share at those FTC meetings about the perspective on themes, elements for development and for discussion comes informally in a lot of different areas. First of all, the conversations I have with all of you. Granted, my major responsibility in Western New York is the liberal arts curriculum, but as you guys know, I do a lot more than just liberal arts. I have a lot of touch points with pretty much all of you, whether it's Blackboard. I work with Rick with CIE in terms of onboarding the new faculty, so we hear things through those new faculty orientations. The process that we go through in order to hire adjunct and full-time faculty members, my conversation with 3 deans. My issue with that has always been it's very informal. And there is a possibility that you guys have another idea, another perspective on things that, quite frankly, I just never get to you. I never have an opportunity to talk to you. And so what this system is designed to do is to make sure that when you guys have thoughts and ideas, you're not just simply reliant on me in my Western New York role through liberal arts, working with Rick on faculty development, but then also my FTC role as well. This gives you another avenue to be able to push your ideas up. The other thing also is a lot of you have sat at some point on the New York State calls. And those New York State calls, if you remember, started off because of Adaptive. We were all trying to help each other out and work through the madness and the chaos that was associated with it. And we did a great job with it. Those calls continue. And a lot of you may still have those on your calendars. I would encourage you guys that if you're able to attend those. And if you're not on that and you want to be, to let me know. Because as I talked to Jeff Trito in Rochester, Jeff and I both see those New York State calls as another avenue where we're able to elicit perspectives from the entire state faculty that's on those. Ideas get generated, and it happened this week. We had our call on Wednesday. A recommendation came out regarding blended. Right now there are sandboxes that exist for English 102 and for Math 101 for starting session 2 that begins next week. And those sandboxes were because we're still making some minor modifications to the core shells. The suggestion that came up this week was there should be sandboxes for every single blended course that is developed from now until the end of Kingdom Come. And there should be an opportunity for the deans to load those faculty members in 3 to 4 months beforehand even to really familiarize themselves with that content. And that was a suggestion that came up informally. I had a meeting with both Jeff and Beth yesterday afternoon, and again, informally, I took that suggestion that came out from the New York State call and shared it with Beth. What we want to be able to do is to take those suggestions and make sure that they don't get lost in the wash. If I got hit by a bus leaving the campus yesterday on my way out to systems, that idea dies. This is designed to make sure that these things don't get lost in the weeds. So we have an opportunity to filter this
So
information out.
just to add to this, though, I think, and most of you would probably agree, a lot of the focus has been on the liberal art side of it, and I know we have programmatic areas and concern. And so one of the things that we perhaps maybe could consider is that what if we had an opportunity to do that with other programs? So for instance, IT is a great example. We have done a lot of work as a college to redefine and set different kind of expectation and really tie it back to the industry. As a dean, right, IT is not my forte, but I hired, a full-time faculty, Howard Patton, who is in the IT industry, has been trained in it, has a full understanding. He's bringing a lot of questions to me that I was not aware of. I didn't even think about it because that is not my field, right? So he's bringing a lot of questions where I'm able to take that to the system level. Perhaps maybe this is a discussion that we may need to have similar model that we have been doing with the liberal art, because as you know, because of CLP, there's been a huge focus on the core curriculum, liberal arts specifically, but we need to change that as well, add to it to include the discipline area, right? So this could be an example if in fact we think this is an idea that we want to look into to make sure that we have the same setup in terms of the committee or the cause that we've been doing. If we want to do that across the state or across our market, then we have an opportunity to do so. But this may be an opportunity that we see that in order for us to enhance and grow the IT program, we invested a lot, right? But how do we make sure that that is happening, and how do we make sure that our faculty are aware of it, our associates are aware of it, our other faculty are aware of it? So here's an opportunity that we may need to start thinking about to use that same model, because we know that through evidence we have seen that this model does work. Faculty do work really well. The feedback that our faculty are giving us has helped us improve how we deliver the information and the material, and what area do we need to focus on, to make some modification, right? So that's an example, but I just wanted to point out that we do have an opportunity to do the same thing to get the other program, medical. We have a ton of different programs that perhaps maybe we can use that same model to make sure that you're also part of the decision making and understand some of the changes that we're doing within the program that you focus on.
So the other thing also I think to mention to you is when you think about the beginning of term in-services and we have our program area breakouts, if you think about those program area breakouts often we have conversations about areas and elements of our program that we think need enhancement. I know it comes out of Jennifer's group, I know it comes out of the liberal arts group, and you guys have your breakouts with the deans. Again, that's an opportunity where in the past we may informally have channeled that information up, and there was some concern about whether or not it was acknowledged, listened to, something was done with it. This is designed to make sure that those situations don't happen. And again, the informal conversations, as full-time faculty members, a lot of you that are here today, you guys have those as part of your performance reviews and also your check-ins with the deans each semester. Ideas and concepts come up. Again, there was never a way to formally channel that information up. And so if you guys take a look at both sides of the chart, this system basically flows in two directions. The one that has more of the boxes comes out of the system facilitated element. And if you take a look at step number 8, that's the area that both ADIAM on ILC and myself on FDC, that's where we become a part of the process. But that's something that starts from the top down. There's a recognition that needs to be some sort of a change, enhancement, modification of some sort. If you flip over to the back, what you'll notice is that this is faculty initiated. This is something that starts at the campus level. And the dean, if it was liberal arts, me, if it was medical, Jennifer and Kennelly, would be involved in some way, shape, or form in the process. But I want you guys to notice that in this chart on the back, ILC and FDC are not directly involved in this. The idea being, and this is important for you guys to know, this is designed to make sure that there is not another filter, in a sense, that's out there. We want to make sure that those ideas and that information gets pushed directly up to the system level for additional consideration.
Okay. Any questions, anything we could clarify? What is I know we have an activity for you, but what are your thoughts in terms of, just so far in terms of this process? What do you think?
What would the timeline be, like, for an idea to go through?
So that's part of this. Now, the other thing I want to say is that this is, I think it's important to point this out. What we're doing is that this information was sent out to all of the deans, to all of the campuses, to get input from faculty. And what's going to happen is that for New York State, for example, I will get all of that information, all of the information. Each of you are going to work on this document. I will get that information, and my job is to put it together for New York State and then submit it to the ILC. We're going to look at it to see if it makes sense in terms of time, and that's part of what the exercise is, for you to review it and say, yeah, this makes sense, or it's going to take too long. By the time that idea gets to here, it won't make sense how it's going to impact my specific discipline or the student or curriculum that we want to impact. So part of this process, so you know, this is in a draft form. This is not done. Part of it is to get your input on this process. So really, it's modeling what we want to do is to really get your input on this and then take it back, and then we're going to sit down and say, okay, that we need to look at this. Maybe this float time doesn't work. We need to modify it. So it's going to take another process. So this is not fully implemented yet. This is really in a draft form. I apologize for not being clear on that. This is really to get your input, and other campuses right now on their, faculty meeting and things are, this same thing process is happening. Just to note, because we know that we have a huge, our adjunct that are not here today because they do work during the day. What we'll do is that this particular activity, as to why it's being recorded, we're going to send that out to the adjuncts as well and have them fill this out, because they also bring an important piece to this process, and have them fill this out so that their voices is heard, so they could be part of the whole dialogue as well. So this is a whole process that we're going to go through.
But Lucy, back to your point also, as far as the front is concerned, it has more of the boxes. The timeline on this could actually be pretty significant, because this whole process could involve a new program. It could involve an enhancement to a program. So it could be something that's 12 months, 18 months, it could be longer. But if you take a look at the back page, this is where it starts with you, and it gets moved up to the system level. If you'd notice, and this is a good question because it came up at the academic managers meeting, if you take a look at step number 5, Ed Services once a month is going to look at all of the submissions that have been given from the field and have been filtered up, and then we'll look at it and then make decisions. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to get feedback within a month, but what it means is that the process to review and consider the suggestions that come from the field will at least start that process within a 1 month period. And it's our understanding, coming out of the managers meeting. Keep in mind, the deans looked at this also. FDC's looked at this. ILC has looked at this to give some feedback. One thing that came up among all 3 groups, because I've been directly involved in 2 of the 3. Is to give you guys a clear timeline. And what that means, first of all, is an acknowledgement that your suggestion has been received. Mm-hmm. Number 2, an acknowledgement that your suggestion has actually been discussed and is under consideration. And 3, give you a timeline now that it's been looked at and is under consideration, how long until a decision is made. All of that is still in evolution, because this document is still under evolution. Great question, Lucy.
Any other questions that we could answer? So what do you think? Like, don't like, we want to look through it first? Silent is not always good, right? You gotta tell me something.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay? Okay. Yeah, that's a phase 1. Absolutely, right? It's about the implementation, right? It's pretty, right? How we implement it matters, which will be, phase 2 in the process, right? Then we're going to modify it. Anything else, Ms. Young?
I'm a little concerned about the timeline.
Sure.
It sounds like a month before the suggestions are listened to, and then it could take longer. It just seems like a long time.
Well, once a month it's looked at. So Heidi, let's say that you submit it in week 3 of the 4-week cycle. That means that yours actually may get looked at faster than somebody who submits it at the end of the last review cycle. let's look at
But I
monthly.
think, but that's part of this whole thing, right? So your input, this is too, it's too long. What would be, something that we may want to consider? That's exactly why we're doing it today, is to really get your input, because looking at it from your perspective, it really will make a difference in how the final document will look like. So that's great. Jim?
What's important about this is transparency. Keep that in mind. Also, one of the reasons why you meet with the deans is to see if there's a possibility that something has to be fast-tracked and such. So if you feel that the timeline is too much and there needs to be something in the form that is going to be used, that's where this exercise is designed to capture some of those ideas that you have to make sure this works more effectively for you.
Dr. Fakari?
These are just basically from manicure treatments, not mine.
No, they can be minor.
Minor too.
Well, it depends on what you define as major and minor. I mean, if you're teaching one of the allied health courses and you think that one of the course outcomes is broken, I mean, that's minor in comparison to the whole program, but it could be very major to that specific course. And that would still go through the same process. But I mean, if you're talking about printing your supplemental syllabi on blue paper versus red paper, then that's probably something that's more minor that can be handled at the local level. But it's
All the color paper. I'm
but
not
it's
sure,
a good
though.
question. It's a good question.
We need more color paper. That's okay. Stapler was the big issue, right? Our Buffalo, did we find a stapler? Yes, we did. Laura did. Yeah, she found it. So, listen, that's minor, but stapler was the biggest thing. We need stapler eraser. Hey. So listen, if we continue to have a stapler issue at Buffalo and our campus director can't address it, it may get to the system level. We may have, right? So it may work, but hey, she doesn't know that though. She didn't even know that. Yes, that's what I thought. We got it. We found it last night. Mrs. D found it, so. No, faculty just accidentally put it in their bag and, we may have to take some from Southtown, but
So the next,
erasers too.
if any of you guys brought bags, just remember
It's
the,
real,
the
too.
code to the Southtown's faculty room is. All right.
Cynthia looking at
Don't worry.
We had you guys grab another document, and there is 2 questions front and back. You'll notice the questions are the same, but one set of questions is designed for you guys to give us some feedback on the individual faculty-initiated flow charts, and then the other portion is designed for you guys to give feedback on the system-facilitated. So we're going to ask you to, first of all, work individually to fill out as many of the questions as you guys want to add some perspective and feedback on. We're going to give you guys about the next 10 to 15 minutes to do so. After that, we're going to have you guys break down into smaller pairs and teams, share your ideas, see if there's some of the things that may come up, and then we'll have you guys, over the last few minutes that we have on the agenda for this, share out some of your thoughts and some of your ideas.
Okay, so just a couple of things. Your name, you got to put your name, right? Because I need individual ones. You got to write clearly, right? Because we don't have computers, so I need to be able to, because I really want to capture your concern and be able to put it together. So please make sure you write clearly on that too, and make sure you put your name to make sure that we have as many representation as possible, and we could do follow-up if we don't have everyone's on there.